Don Goldberg for TechView, and we're out in San Jose today with our good friend John Landwehr from Adobe Systems. And John, you're of course one of our security gurus that we go to. Lots of interest in the media out there these days about how do you protect sensitive information, personally identifiable information for privacy purposes, proprietary information. Of course, the WikiLeaks has gotten a lot of attention with all the classified information. What do government managers of information have to start thinking about to really do a better job of protecting information?
Sure. I think that the first thing as you're dealing with sensitive information is to figure out where is your sensitive information, why is it sensitive. Certainly you don't want to have sensitive information that is not really sensitive and you end up protecting too much stuff, which just becomes a burden for the organization. But to really zero in on what indeed is sensitive and who is the community of users that needs to have access to it. And really this ties to a information classification policy that would have a little bit more granularity than high-level words like confidential. But to actually, again, think of a community of users for a piece of information that you want to specify as this community has access to this information, and any time that we record this information electronically, we stamp the document with that policy tag so that all people that interact with that information or those documents know that it is sensitive to this particular tag.
And we're not necessarily talking national security, we're talking about privacy, social security numbers, business sensitive as it has to do with contractors. I mean, there's a whole range of information.
Exactly. Yeah, that any kind of information that you do not want to leave your organization for any reason that would be deemed as sensitive should have one of these information classification tags along with it, as part of again, a policy that has some easy to understand tags or names associated with them. So if it is PII that's being collected, that again is stamped across the document on every page that people know, okay, this is sensitive PII that we don't want to have leak out, and we know that we need to protect it.
Now, these aren't the physical hard copies necessarily that some of us who are a little older are used to. We're talking about digital information. So would these stamps then be not just in just on the document as if it was printed, but also inherent in the metadata?
Exactly. And after the policy has been created that defines why is this sensitive and who are the authorized people to view it, you really want to incorporate that into the data layer or the document itself so that it is burned into the document, not only so that the recipients know that it's sensitive, but also utilizing encryption technology in the document itself so that anywhere that document goes, only the intended recipients can open it. And if that document accidentally or maliciously goes somewhere that it shouldn't, which is beyond the bounds of the policy, they have an encrypted bag of bits that they can't open. And really that encryption layer that, again, is getting closer and closer to the data is tied to something that is known as enterprise rights management, which is a form of document security, again, encrypting the content at the content layer. So each time the document is opened, the user has to authenticate. So they log in with their username and password, or they put their government ID, smart card badge in the computer that identifies who they are, and then the system can check against the central server to say, user XYZ is trying to open document 123. Are they in the policy? Yes, okay, then we'll decrypt the document. And the magic here is also not just when the document is open, but while the document remains open, it stays encrypted on the user's system. And you can further restrict things like printing or copying and pasting or even modifying of that document. So again, no matter where that document goes, it stays protected for that community that was defined as part of that policy.
So you have to label the documents, you have to have good policy. What about making sure that the people who have access to the information know what to do with it?
Yeah, that's really the third phase here, again, after you first identify what is sensitive and who's the intended audience, and then provide some technology that is able to encrypt the document and make sure that it's only that audience that's opening it. Really, the third phase is training the users, that they have to know not only that the policy exists, but also the technology exists to be able to protect the document. And a close corollary to that is not just training them, but also providing some automation that's in place, maybe for the documents that were sensitive before the technology was deployed, that can go and find those sensitive documents and automatically encrypt them. And that can be, for example, ties to data loss prevention tools that work on both the desktop as well as the server to find these sensitive documents, or extensions to content management systems and portals. So anytime a document is checked in or checked out from the repository, it can automatically encrypt the document to a policy corresponding to the access control list in that content management system or portal.
So what are the next steps for people who are in the protecting information arena?
Really, again, as the market has shifted away from just protecting the perimeter to now looking at how do we provide security closer and closer to the data, it's not just the confidentiality of that information or the privacy sensitivity that goes along with it. Other important aspects of document security also include the authenticity and integrity of it, so that when you get that information, you know it came from that source and has not been tampered with in any way after it was published. That obviously can be very important in government workflows. The U.S. Government Printing Office is an example of, as new laws are being published, they are in digitally signed documents posted on their website, so that even the mass public can see this is an official document of record. I think the other area that is going to be interesting and useful is the analytics that can go along with electronic information.
Right.
So that as you're publishing these electronic documents, is anybody reading them? Because if you work really hard to publish reports or otherwise distribute information out to a community of information sharing types of applications, you want to make sure that they're reading the right things. And that's really an opportunity to tie the encryption technology to analytics so that you can see this many people read the sensitive information. Maybe important bulletins are being published related to national security, and just because they're being published doesn't mean that people could necessarily find them easily. Therefore, that critical information isn't getting into the right hands quick enough, and it may not be a authoring challenge of getting the content written in the first place. It may be a distribution challenge to make sure that the right people are getting it. So that's kind of where we see the next wave of evolution is really, analytics of who's interacting with the information. Are the right people interacting with it? Are they getting it quick enough?
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, John, it's always interesting and intellectually challenging to have these conversations with you. I appreciate you being back here for us, or actually being out in your offices for it.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm Don Goldberg for TechView.